And good evening, everybody. How are you doing? We're here for another great Tuesday night debate. This one is one that you will find constantly on the Disney boards, and that is Fastpass, Genie Plus, nothing at all, or is there another option? We're going to dive right in. Well, I am excited tonight. This is a discussion that you see anytime you go on the Disney boards, people talking about Genie Plus and Lightning Lane and Fastpass and Fastpass Plus and MaxPass and is it better with nothing and or so on and so forth, and just lots of strong feelings. And I've kind of mentioned my feelings a little bit at times, but thought it would be fun to get somebody that I consider an expert who's used all of the systems more than I have even. And you guys have seen him before in video. So here is Craig joining me.
Hi, everybody.
And we should have a lot of fun with this. We're going to be talking a little bit of the history. I put a link in the chat as well as in the video description to Defunct Land's Fastpass documentary. If you have never seen it, I cannot say strong enough. Go watch it. There's a lot of people who think they understand how the system works, and they don't really understand its purpose and what it does, and that will help you do that. But some of us have been using these for a long time. So you can see I've got one for my son's birthday in 2006. Craig's got his old paper one there, and now, of course, it's all on the phone. But yeah, Craig and I were talking just before we started. I'm like, hey, I can take the paper Fastpass and I can one up it. Ooh. But yeah, we've been around. We have used these, and it's interesting. So if you remember, way back in the days of the paper Fastpass, it was come into the park, make the mad dash to the Fastpass machine for the rides that you wanted, get your tickets, and then hope that there were Fastpasses left for the next ride you wanted a couple hours later, pretty much. If you were at Studios, it was Toy Story Mania. When it opened, it was the madness. And then if you were smart and knew the system, you realized that Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster were actually not quite on the system completely, and so you could actually get both of those at the same time if you knew how to use the system. But
well, speaking of using the system, I think jumping in and using touring plans in the early days, way before Genie and Genie Plus, was a good way to help optimize and get hints and tips that your general person, especially who doesn't go there very often, I think it was a very good value proposition. And back in the day, I printed out custom touring plans for multiple people.
When I was working at the parks, it was one of those deals that because you were there, you kind of learned how to use the system, and you could come in with a group. You kind of knew the touring plans would have published, and you could hit pretty much everything in the parks. Pretty close to it. There weren't that many rides that have Fastpass. It was like 6 or 8 in Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, probably something like
that. So not very many. Kind of limited, and yeah, you could get there 10 minutes before and 15 minutes after your printed time.
Actually, depends on the time. Sometimes it was only 5 minutes.
Yeah,
there was a period where I believe it was 5 minutes before and 10 to 15 after.
Mm-hmm.
But in the earlier days, when they were just manually checking them almost all the time, it was a lot more flexible. Unless,
you didn't have to being a jerk. Then you just showed them your pass. What was nice was we'd have Fastpasses that we hadn't used, and hey, you know what? We're tired. We're here all the time, and you could hand them off to somebody. And we would have people give us Fastpasses. And actually, if you didn't make your time, if you were there a couple hours late, and, hey, I'm sorry, we got held up. And they'd wave you in most of the time.
Yeah.
So, I liked that. It allowed you you know, if you couldn't use yours, you could bless somebody else with them who didn't know about them or hadn't used them. So that was kind of nice with it. Um, and because it was limited rides, it didn't impact everything in the park, at least
True.
in my
Yep.
experience. So, um, you know, Christmas Eve, Pirates of the Caribbean, even though the park was at capacity, was like a 45-minute wait. And good luck finding a 45-minute wait on Pirates now. So, so there was a lot I liked about the paper fast passes, but even the rides that did have it, still definitely you could notice that the lines were slower because of the fast pass if you were in the standby. So, um, Crazy Mike, this is an interesting thought. If you think about it, Genie Plus saves the park lots of cash, not filling the machines with with the paper tickets, and cuts down on trash. Yes. So Genie Plus, really MaxPass at Disneyland was kind of the precursor for Genie Plus. For me, I didn't think it was that different. Yeah.
I like MaxPass more when I used it. One of the largest reasons is as soon as you were scanned in, you could start within a minute or two, start
Mm-hmm.
trying to get your next Fast Pass through MaxPass. And there was one day that I rode Disneyland Space Mountain 5 times in the course of 45 minutes because
Mm-hmm.
I'd ride it and then I'd jump over to Star Tours and then I'd circle back and I got like 4 or 5 fast passes between those two and maybe an Astro Blasters in the middle. And it was just a really great way to close out the night.
Yeah, yeah. When they changed from the paper to the electronic, FastPass Plus at Disney World, MaxPass at Disneyland, they expanded the number of rides drastically. Started putting it onto a lot of rides that hadn't had it, and you notice that it started impacting the standby lines. That was the big thing I noticed is rides that I was used to kind of walking on or breezing through, all of a sudden were taking a lot longer to get on the ride. But if you knew the system, it could be great.
Yep.
I know one guy with FastPass Plus. He would hit every ride at Magic Kingdom, and then he could hop to a park and he could hit every to a different one because he knew the system and knew how to work it.
Right.
But the people who didn't know the system, I don't think they were impacted as much under the paper. But FastPass Plus and MaxPass, you started to really see it. Disneyland, I don't remember being as bad as FastPass Plus. MaxPass, I liked better. The one ride I remember noticing it was Radiator Springs Racers.
Mm-hmm.
That one I noticed it killed the standby line.
Yep. But single rider was usually still very good on
yes.
Radiator Springs Racers. So there were options.
But Caroline, FastPass for Peter Pan Disneyland would be interesting. They did. I can't remember if it's on Disneyland. I know Magic Kingdom. They've got
Disneyland's is not.
Okay, Disneyland's is not.
When we were there in September, I ended up I got in line 5 minutes before closing, and it really was the 30-minute posted wait still.
Yep. Caroline, I thought you could only have 3 FastPass Plus for a day. You could book 3 FastPass Plus ahead of time, but then if you were smart and you booked them early and time in the morning, then when your last one expired, you could start booking more.
The problem with that is if you wanted to use one of the FastPass Pluses for one of the nighttime shows.
Yeah.
Because then most of the time in the FastPass Plus era, you weren't able to get a third or a fourth FastPass until after you used all of them. And that was one of the big pluses I thought with MaxPass is that you didn't have a restriction like that, and getting a FastPass for World of Color would not preclude you from getting anything else on MaxPass.
Yes, MaxPass was definitely better that way. Yep. Megan asks, was there a difference between FastPass and FastPass Plus? FastPass was only paper tickets, and you could not get your first until you were in the park. FastPass Plus was you could book them ahead of time, 2 months ahead of time.
60 days for resort guests, 30 days for people who weren't staying on property.
So you would arrive and you already had them booked. What it would do though for a ride, say Millennium Falcon, all of them were booked ahead of time, and you had no choice but to ride standby. Or Flight of Passage was notorious for this.
Yeah.
If you didn't get that lottery and get that early Fastpass Plus for it, you weren't going to get one. You were going to have to wait in the 3-hour line to ride it.
Well, and back before the days of Park Pass reservations, you could at least have that flexibility of picking a day and then trying to get the key rides that were most important to you. And then if you didn't, you could just swap to different parks that day and plan to just park hop if you already had dining reservations.
Yeah.
Back then, you could also book dining at 180 days plus up to 10 days for resort guests from the day of arrival. And I always did.
Yeah. Yeah, Richard mentions with paper passes, you couldn't get a new one until the time ran out of the one you already had. That is correct. Or until 2 hours had passed.
Right. Or until 2 hours from the time you received it. Because like this one that I have here, another ticket will be available after 12:55 p.m., even though it actually has a return time of 1:15. So
right.
My next ticket was available 20 minutes before the return started because this was issued at 10:59 a.m.
Right. So if you got it first thing in the morning and it was for 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you just had to wait 2 hours before you could get another one. But otherwise, yes, you did have to wait until your time passed. So time pass or 2 hours, whichever came first.
Yep. Yeah. And the other thing that, in case I didn't mention it before, MaxPass would allow you to do multiple rides on the same attraction, like I mentioned with Space Mountain, but you aren't able to do that with Genie Plus. So even though they're both paid services, that's one of the big drawbacks, in my opinion. And another big difference, if I'm maybe getting ahead of myself, is Genie Plus will let you book, especially if you're a resort guest, before you get in the park. You can make that 7 a.m. reservation, which I think is very nice and handy. Even if I then, reset my alarm and go back to bed for a while longer after making the 7 a.m. reservation, instead of having to actually be in the park before you can start booking anything.
Right. Yeah. Genie Plus. It's once per ride. But yeah, when we've been traveling, when we were on our way to Epcot, we were actually in the car on the way from Tampa, and we were booking our stuff in the car on the way. But again, it was one of those, okay, we want to ride Guardians. How are we going to do it? 7 o'clock. We got to be on that thing smacking it, or we're not going to get it. Because Guardians, trying to remember, did we rebook it? Or how did we get that second one?
Second one was virtual queue.
So okay, that's right. It was virtual queue and Genie Plus
as soon as it opened, and also an individual access lightning lane.
Yeah. Crazy Mike, with Wi-Fi so spotty in Disney sometimes, let's hope your phone has unlimited data. Okay. Verizon is your answer there. But I won't go into that. But so yeah, Genie Plus, it's once per ride. It's an extra charge versus free. So FastPass Plus and FastPass were free. Genie Plus is paid once per ride. MaxPass was paid too, though.
MaxPass was paid, but you still could get paper fast passes.
Yes.
While MaxPass was the thing. So you
kind of had both. MaxPass lets you do it on your phone.
Right. And it also included ride photos.
Yes. So by the time you figured the cost of the ride, PhotoPass photos as a whole.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, Genie Plus, they just now added on ride photos free for the next year at Disney World. But MaxPass, it was all your PhotoPass photos because we loaded it up. But yeah, so a little bit different system. They went from free to booking. See, I struggle with FastPass Plus because it killed the lines. That booking 2 months in advance and then knowing that you probably weren't going to get on the ride you really wanted to go on because you didn't hit that window. That was annoying.
Agreed.
So I don't know. I did not like FastPass Plus. I just didn't. MaxPass was a big improvement, I thought, over that. Genie Plus for me is an evolution of MaxPass. So Carolyn, what's the difference between MaxPass and Genie? MaxPass was only at Disneyland. Genie is at both Disneyland and Walt Disney World.
Genie is free.
MaxPass allowed you to book your fast passes on your phone, in addition to getting the paper tickets if you wanted. MaxPass included your PhotoPass photos, and you could rebook the same ride multiple times on MaxPass Genie, you can't. That the basic
Genie
difference?
Plus. Regular Genie is free. That's just the wait time advice. Genie Plus is the paid service that gets you faster access. So
yeah, so
it's a
Genie does
distinction,
not include Lightning Lane,
right?
which is essentially Fastpass.
Yeah.
Genie Plus, the paid version of it, includes that.
Yes.
And not even for the top tier rides. Those are an extra charge. And you can get those without paying for Genie Plus. You can pay for those separate.
Yes.
So,
and as far as trying to budget, the prices are different all the time for all of the above.
Yes, it changes depending on how many people are in the park and the demand for it. So here's the thing that I think a lot of people miss. And like I said, I put the link to the documentary. There's a lot of people that have this idea that Fastpass was created so people could get on more rides. And that's not what it was created for. And Tweetsy Railroader is thoughts on other theme parks Fastpass system. And I'm actually going to loop all the way around to that here. So Fastpass was created to allow people to be in the line virtually, but actually going other places like food and shopping and spending money. That was the whole point. Hey, if we get them out of line, then we can put them into the stores and the restaurants and they'll spend more money. So ultimately, that's what the purpose was. Well, what ends up happening is when you've got this and then you're in line for something else, you're in two lines at once. And then when you get something like Genie Plus, and okay, you've got your booked reservation for Rides to the Resistance, and you've got your Genie Plus ride for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and you're waiting in line for Tower. Now you're in three lines at once. Okay, so how does that affect the lines? Well, if you're occupying three places in line versus one, that's going to make those lines longer. And so it makes all the standby lines. And again, it's trying to get you out of line and to spend money. That's the whole purpose of the thing. Let's spread the crowds out and put them in the stores. And you noticed it from when I worked there, how with the paper Fastpass system, the lines weren't bad. I had groups that I could bring into Magic Kingdom and we could do every single ride in the park on one day. I push them. We'd work fast, but we could do it. I had a couple families tell me, "Oh, there's no way," and we did every single ride. And they're like, "Okay, you can't do that anymore."
Now, I have had some periods of time where you could get on almost everything in Future World in an hour and a half at the end of the day, once lots of people were going for dinner and lining up for illuminations.
Yeah. About the one way you can do it is if you're there at rope drop and you hit a bunch in that first hour, I call it the golden hour.
Yep.
And then in the days of the evening parade, you'd use the parade time at night to go hit a bunch of stuff. But there was a study that was done that the average number of rides that guests do per day at Disney now is like 2/3 of what it was when I worked there. So they're waiting longer in lines and doing less. Yep. That's just how it is, and that's kind of my frustration is they keep evolving it. And I know, let's see, I feel like they pushed that it would help you get on more rides in the 2008 planning video. It was a great line they were feeding you, but it was not the truth.
I think they actually said it will allow you to do more. I don't think they ever said more rides, at least not in some of the versions of it.
Right.
They
so
said
people
you can
do
more
and they assume more rides, but that's not. Yeah. So why does it always come back to money? Well, because they're trying to make a profit.
Yep.
So, and that's really what it comes down to. So, Tweetsy had mentioned other parks Fastpass systems. Disney was the only one that was giving it away free. And you knew that wasn't going to last. Because I don't think there's another park out there that had a system that allowed you to skip the line for nothing. Unless you're familiar with one or somebody else does.
Nothing I can think of. It's all part of some sort of a paid experience
Yeah.
whether it's a special tour or whatever that might be.
Trailblazer at Silver Dollar City, Express Pass at Universal. Um, I'm trying to remember what Cedar Fair and Six Flags call it, but they're always paid extras.
Now,
Yeah.
some places like Universal has offered at least certain flavors that were bundled and included with your hotel reservation, which
Yes.
some people will say it's free, kind of like free dining or free whatever, but
You're
I
paying for it
prefer
with the hotel.
included in your purchase price because that's a lot more honest than
Yeah.
free.
Yeah. So this is a good point. Here's the problem I have with Disney Genie over Fastpass. It's a generational thing. People under 50 understand the system. People in the 50, 75 range don't. No, how about make a family group deal? So what we did, uh, you can actually make it a family group deal. You still have to pay individually, but you can designate one person in the family to book. So when we travel with Craig, he's the man. He's got everybody in his group. He booked everything. And yeah, we just watch him. I've actually got video of him booking all of our stuff.
Yeah, it showed up on video a lot with
Yeah.
you're getting off a ride. What did you think of it? What did you think of it?
Yep.
I'm face down on my
And
phone
Craig's on
trying
the
to book the
phone
next
booking
one.
the next one. Yes, it is a bit of a generational thing because older people have a harder time with this. My mom, for example, this is beyond her. Digital smartphones is like a foreign language to her. And I get that. But again, if you can have a person in the group, you create a group through My Disney Experience, and you have one of those people in the group designated to do the booking for the rides. So it can be done that way. We've done that. It works. It works very well that way. But yes, if you don't have somebody in the group like that, it can definitely be an issue.
Yeah.
Um,
And you're welcome, Megan.
yeah. Yes. So other Fast Pass add-on, Six Flags is Flash Pass, and it's expensive. Yeah, Megan. Everything I learned about Genie, I learned from Craig. So now Mike's talking about you can get a handicap pass. We're not talking about disability passes. That is a whole different thing. Every park has them. Those are usually free. They're designed specifically for people with disabilities. They are a different deal, a different beast entirely.
That could be an interesting video. I don't personally have information on that, at least not much, but there could be some people who might be willing to talk with you more about that and their
Yeah,
experiences at
I
various parks.
I think I might know somebody
I
that
can think of someone in particular.
we were down at Tampa
I
with,
think I
and
may have
we'll
even
see
seen
on
them
the
in the chat. So
swing. Um, so Judy, it sounds like you're getting drafted again. um, so of all those systems, Craig, because you've used FastPass, FastPass Plus, MaxPass, Genie, is there a preference with any of those?
So I also looking back to when I went before any of the above, I think that yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, I think MaxPass probably was my favorite of them because of the re-ride capability.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind the extra charges if it doesn't get out of hand. I think FastPass Plus, I liked being able to reserve a show, but because it tied up slots and because you had so few, that probably was pretty low on my list. So I think I'd say MaxPass, then maybe Paper FastPass, Genie Plus, and then FastPass Plus, and no skip the lines.
Yeah. See, for me, FastPass Plus was the worst. I
Yeah.
hated that booking ahead of time. There really wasn't a whole lot about FastPass Plus I liked. I
Yeah.
liked MaxPass. It could use it. I thought it was user friendly. I thought it worked well. Um, Genie, I'm still kind of. I think it could be fine tuned. Of them, I did like the paper the best. Um, but
Now,
let's see
I
here.
think it would be interesting if Disney were to implement some kind of a paid show pass like Silver Dollar
Mhm.
City has. I haven't used Silver Dollar Cities personally, but I love the idea to be able to
Yes.
get a paid reserved seat for
Mhm.
Fantasmic or Nemo or Frozen, depending on who's in the party,
Yeah.
if I want to go to a sing along with them or not.
Now, weaponized toast is referring to the disability pass. And yes, if you need them, use them. If you don't, please don't. Now, I will admit, Judy needs them. Judy has blessed us with allowing us to ride along with her. But the point of getting it wasn't for us to ride. Judy's riding and wants to ride. And hey, we get to come along with her. But if you don't need it, don't cheese your way into it. So a Disc fan. Why couldn't Disney do the pricing as a group? Because they're making the money individually. The point isn't to. It comes down to money. The more money they can make. Iger, you might see them come in with a group price. I don't know, but it's kind of hard to verify that everybody is actually a group as well. There's going to be people that are going to cheat the system like that. But as far as raising the prices during holiday and lower the prices when the parks aren't crowded, they do that. They absolutely do that.
Yep.
Already.
It used to be only on the individual attractions, but now they're doing that on the pricing for Genie Plus as well as the individual.
Yes. So they are doing that. Now, I have the very unpopular opinion. I wouldn't mind them doing away with it entirely. And again, I refer back to when we went to Not So Scary. And during the day, it was fast passes. And the line for Space Mountain you couldn't even see the end of it. And Space Mountain was an hour plus wait. And then when the Not So Scary part hit, all the fast pass systems shut down. It didn't exist anymore. And the line for Space Mountain, it got busier. There was far more people in the park. The line for Space Mountain came out halfway towards People Mover. So it looked humongous. It was less than 30 minutes because there was no fast pass killing the line and people were just moving right on through and on. So you watched all of the lines, even though they grew in length, the wait times shrank drastically because all the fast pass wasn't killing it. So that's kind of my deal. It was nice to see the shorter waits again. Let's see. So I'm trying to look. And now, Craig, you said not having one at all was your least favorite.
I'd say so because I like being able to skip some of the waits.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice because then I will look at that time and go, now's a good time for me to get a snack. Or I'm going to go to X performance of a show because I want to make sure I ride attraction Y at time Z. So I kind of like having some fixed times to work around. And then I use that in my selection of, okay, this attraction has a wait that'll let me get done before my next Fast Pass. So, or Genie Plus, or whatever the term de jour is.
So here's where I get really unpopular with some. Okay, so let's take the system. And in my mind, let's jack the price up. Let's do MaxPass, but let's raise up the price. Not quite to Universal levels. But I liked Universal system because you had two different steps. You had one that was unlimited re-rides, and then one was one ride on each. You could go when you wanted, and they restricted the number of sales per day, so it didn't affect the standby line. But if you want to spend the money, you could do it, and we did it, and it was worth it for us.
Well, I think that something along those lines, and maybe an upper tier of Genie Plus where you get re-rides, could be a nice addition. Or maybe make an individual option for a re-ride.
Yep.
For some of the stuff that isn't in there, for $5 you can get an extra re-ride.
Okay, and here's where I really get, because people are going, but it's so expensive. Well, okay, so let's make this so it doesn't affect the standby lines, but the people who want it can get it. I'm going to bump it to like $50 a person.
Well, Universal, I think that when they were doing the experiments with the extra FastPass Plus reservations, if you were a concierge guest, I think you could get 3 additional ones for $50 per person per day, but you had to get that for the entire length of stay.
Yeah.
I usually do not stay in concierge rooms, so I never personally tried that service, but I did read about it.
Well, the cheap Universal ones were like $75. And then I think if you got the expensive unlimited re-ride one, it was, depending upon how busy it was that day, it was between 100 and 175. We never did that step, but it worked well, and the people there weren't very many people ahead of you in that line, so you knew you weren't really slowing down the other. Um, let's see. Chris kind of mentions here, I feel Disney is just pricing a lot of people out. This is a whole different discussion here. You can get some top experiences at other parks for the price of Disney tickets these days. Absolutely. Disney is about the most expensive out there, although Universal matches them in Florida. Yes, but here's the problem. And we can take like 3 minutes here for this. Supply and demand. The demand to go to Disney is absolutely nuts. This is the first time they've had a slower off season in forever, but the parks have been packed to the gills. You cannot lower prices at the parks, which increases the crowds. You're already at capacity. You can't make it more affordable. Sorry, you can't do it. You got to reduce the number of people. The easiest way to do that is raise prices. Supply demand. There's no avoiding it. Okay. That's a minute and a half. How's that, Craig?
Nicely done.
So, Caroline, what is the concierge room? It is the big fancy level where you have somebody who helps book restaurants and offer services, and they do all that for you. It's nice.
Well, and at Disney, it usually involves having free snacks and some extra free activities and things like that.
Yep. So, yeah, it fluctuates. So, Abby, if you have a big group, I don't think it's a good idea. Have so many of us doing it's not easy. You can get some for some of us. Difficult to get one for everyone in our group. This is actually, again, where I kind of like Universals, because you've got the flexibility with it where you're not having to book times. You just go. And so, yes, it's expensive, but it allows you the flexibility to do it the way you want.
That would be
a minute and a half.
Yeah.
So, and I know it's not the very popular opinion, because there's a lot like Chris, Disney's too expensive. I want it cheaper. I want it more affordable. And it comes down to, I want it so I can afford it and not have to spend more than I really should spend. Those days are gone. I'm sorry, Chris. And Disney's never been cheap. It never has. When I was there, again, they said the average family saved 5 years to go on a Disney vacation. Now I think it's 6. With inflation, that may be going up some. But it's always been something that's been expensive, that it was not just family affordable. Hasn't been that way in a long time. And it's just kind of reinforcing it now. So, I actually think my likes just went down when I said that. Wait, he wants us to pay more money? I know, not a popular opinion, but I honestly, I do think if you visit the Universal parks, you find it a better experience as far as the line waiting goes, because you don't have so many people using a system that's gumming it up. I found I like it better that way. So somebody tell me different. So yeah, Chris, I love Disney, but just looking, the prices worked out nearly double for Universal for me and my friends. Yeah. Florida vacations at the tourist spots aren't cheap. Never have been. We're okay. I can't really say I know the whole budget, because I don't, but I would imagine our 2 weeks that we're doing through Pennsylvania and New York, probably same price or less as a week at Disney. If you were to break it down. And we're going to
that will depend on what hotels come into play.
Yeah.
And also where meals are happening at.
But reasonably close, 2 weeks on the road, going to see a lot more, doing a lot more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Although a lot more is relative. Some of these parks have more things that are for coaster fans, whereas dark ride people like myself and, smaller, low to the ground flat rides, or more literally flat rides, as the case may be, might have a lot fewer options. So is that value really the same? I think there's an argument to be made there. It depends a lot on what you're looking for.
Yes. And like I said, Disney is just not going to be cheap. It's just not. You can, if you want the cheaper Disney, you go to Disneyland because you can work budgets with the hotels there, and some of the other stuff around it. Because I can do a Disneyland vacation a lot cheaper than I can do a Disney World vacation. Multiple ways. Get a cheaper hotel across the street from the park, and you save transportation, you save on hotel.
Now, if you want to stay in the bubble, though, Disneyland is generally more expensive than Disney World because dining is more expensive, hotels and taxes are all more expensive.
Yeah.
So,
if of course we talked about that last week,
but yeah, that's true. We're rehashing.
Yes. So overall, okay, I think we both agreed Fastpass Plus was the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, just happy to see it gone. And then you said you actually like the paper tickets best, right? Or MaxPass?
I preferred MaxPass.
MaxPass, okay. I like MaxPass because it did give people the option if they didn't want to pay, they could do the paper. I really like the system and including the PhotoPass photos. For me, that was worth it. Easy.
Sure.
Yeah. So and like I said, I do know it's an unpopular deal. And I know a lot of people disagree with me, and I think actually you disagree with me on doing a more expensive system like Universal's.
I'd have to try it. If you didn't have specific wait times or specific arrival windows and you could do re-rides.
And they do actually have that available with Universals.
Right.
It's a 2-tier system. And in fact, I'm going to, let's see here. Let me see if I can find the info.
Have you used Universals only in Orlando, or have you also used theirs in Hollywood?
We didn't use it at Hollywood. Just because it wasn't that bad with crowds, and we kind of worked our way around it.
Sure.
Let me see here.
Because I'm going to go to Universal Hollywood for my first time in August, so I'm curious and trying to decide if I'm going to buy any express passes.
Yeah, we really didn't need it there. Let me just see here if I can find our express pass, because they've got a couple different types here. Okay, so let me share this for everybody. This is Universal, and I know I'm starting to sound like a Universal commercial here, but this will kind of give you an idea of the prices generally. So the 2-park Universal Express Pass, skip the lines at popular rides attractions once per ride. It's $100. There's no time schedule on it. Do it when you want. So you can make your own schedule. You're still allowed to be completely spontaneous, works at both parks. If you want unlimited times on the ride, so you want to go around in circles, it starts at 130 and then it goes up from there. So you've got that flexibility. Yes, you're going to pay for it, but they do also restrict the number of people per day. So you're not going to have people in front of you in line. I think the longest wait we had with one of them, there was like 15, 20 people in front of us in line when we used it. So yeah, it costs a lot more, but all those people waiting in the standby line, they're not really waiting much longer because you don't have 500 people in front of you in line that are skipping. So a little different that way. I thought it worked well. But I wouldn't mind seeing prices a little cheaper than that. By the way, weaponized test. Yes, you can suggest topics for Tuesday nights. Absolutely. Send it to me via email, sirwillow@gmail.com. Easiest way for me to see it so I don't miss it. So, and yeah, Universal's lower tier gives you 1 ride, upper tier, unlimited rides. And Caroline, is this on top of admission? Yes, it is. Not included admission. It is on top of it. So like I said, it does cost a bunch, but we were able to, using the cheaper tier, we were able to do every ride in both parks on one day. With a couple exceptions. But if you push it using that, you can do it because you're able to skip the lines like that. So, Strong's, let's see. How do you like having a Genie or a Fastpass and then a celebrity shows up and you get bumped after paying all that money? I said people just lose it for that. Okay, so they're upset because one group cut in front of them in line. That group's going to cut in front of you in line anyways. Yeah, I know people lose their stuff at parks for dumb reasons. So, let's see. Megan, I was told by a cast member last month that even if your Genie Plus arrival window expires, you can still tap in at any point before park close. Okay. That's how the paper tickets used to work. That was not the case with Fastpass Plus. If you miss your window by 30 minutes, I think too bad.
My understanding is that cast members can override and still allow it, but it will show up that you missed your window. You'll get the flashing blue ring, I believe it is.
This is why it's nice. It's good to be nice to cast members. We had, what was it? I think it was Toy Story Mania that we were there as a family. And we had somebody join us and meet us at the park. That's what it was. And so we were booked and they were not. And so we went up and asked the cast member, hey, look, there's 4 of us booked. We've got 1 extra. We know the answer's no. It's okay. We understand. And they bumped him in for us. So be nice to cast members. They can bend rules.
Yep.
But yeah.
But I definitely have seen people turned away when they flash that it wasn't valid or they missed their window. It's possible something has changed recently, but I know it definitely wasn't a given.
It's definitely do not expect them to bend the rules. But if you're really nice and sweet to them, they might. Just don't be upset and disappointed when they tell you no. So, but yeah, cast members, when you're really nice to them and you don't expect goodies, you might get them. But if you're expecting goodies and demanding it, you're not going to get it. So let's see. So favorite of your system, MaxPass?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go MaxPass.
And see, I would agree with that. I like MaxPass. I did like how that one worked. Fastpass Plus, Huey, paper tickets. I wouldn't mind seeing it. If we're going to do it, let's just go all in.
Yeah, I'd go for that.
So, anything else, Craig, you wanted to add?
I was just going to, when we brought in Universal, I'm going to be trying their VIP tour at Hollywood in August, and that is much cheaper than hiring a plaid at the Disney parks. Because on that particular day, it's $419 per person, and I'm curious how that would compare, but I don't know very many people who have actually hired a plaid yet. So I guess.
By the way, if you don't know what a plaid is, it's a tour guide. One of the guest services. Yeah, Universal is definitely cheaper when it comes to things like that. So you can definitely find ways to. Well, Universal resorts, I believe, are a little bit cheaper than Disney's. Little, not a whole lot, and that. Don't quote me on that. But you can oftentimes get deals where they include the express pass with your stay.
Well, and that's what it is. A lot of times I've found when I have priced them, they didn't have a lot of options that weren't in a package.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's probably some way to book it, but it sure wasn't front and center to try and do anything that wasn't a package.
But the packages too, there were a lot of times I was like, oh, I wish I wasn't on as much of a budget as I am, because Universal offers some nice packages. So
usually I was still seeing somewhere in the neighborhood of at least 1,000 a day, and starting around 2,500 for a 2-day 2-person package.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a Florida tourist vacation where they're running capacity. It's not gonna be cheap. If you want cheaper vacations, don't go to Tourist Trap, Florida. That's just how it is. Because we're paying. Okay, so just to give people an idea, my daughter and I, for this big trip, we're getting it's not quite the top tier Cedar Fair pass, but we're getting a pass that gets you into all the Cedar Fair parks and meals and drinks. And I got the picture pass on it, and we're paying about $1,000 for two of us. So that compares to 4 days at Disney, I think.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. And we're able to get to all the Cedar Fair parks that we want. So Knott's Berry Farm, Cedar Point, Dorney, Worlds of Fun, Kings Island, stuff like that. Silver Dollar City, it was 140 this year, I believe, for unlimited visits. Yes, if you're on a budget, there's other places you can go for a lot less than you can do a Disney vacation. My Six Flags pass, which I've had for a while, I pay $240 a year, and it includes meals, drinks, admissions, parking, all of that. So yeah, I spend a penny on passes, but I get to go to these places for a whole lot less, and overall, I still spend less than I would on a Disney vacation. so yeah, if you're going, wow, Disney's expensive, there are definitely a lot more things you can do for less. And if that's your factor, and even though, and all those parks too also have the paid skip the line stuff. so something to think about. Look at your local park, patronize them, encourage them. I definitely would encourage you to do that. So,
well, and I'm trying to see if I can find the current price, but a Disney World Sorcerer Pass, which is only available to Florida residents and Vacation Club members, has blockout dates, and I believe it's around $650 or $700 at the renewal discount price. So,
okay, so $650 with blockout dates versus, what is it? I think it's like $480 for unlimited dates and meals and drinks and pictures.
Right.
At Cedar Fair.
And the Sorcerer Pass allows you to get up to 5 days of Park Pass reservations at a time.
Woohoo! So, what did I say? Wait, you mean Disney isn't the only theme park ever? Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Only theme park worth visiting on a regular basis?
I don't know.
They don't have a whip or the kangaroo or turtle, though, so definitely still good to visit Kennywood.
Yeah, we'll get those again this year. Can't wait. So I'm looking forward to the kangaroo. It's been a long time since I've been on one. So, but anyways, I think that kind of wraps this one up. MaxPass is kind of our winner. I don't know if Greg agrees with me. Hey, let's go something a little more upper tier and reduce the numbers. I think it would create a better experience for everybody. But
and add a show pass.
Yes, and add a show pass. I love the show pass. I've done it a couple times.
Make it a separate pass and
good stuff.
Up tier the price.
Yeah. So love to hear your feedback. I mentioned Weaponized Test was asking if you have suggestions for the debates. If you're enjoying these, let me know. Send an email to sirwillow@gmail.com. Please don't forget to hit that like button. Share the video too. The more you all like, the more you interact, the more you comment, the more the videos get out there, the more we can do. And hey, maybe we can start doing some prizes for these things, because I've got some stuff here to give away that I got to do at some point. So it's coming up. Brendan, Show Lovers at Silver Dollar City is great. It's wonderful, especially at the popular times of the year. It can be really nice. Let's see. How do you feel when you get there and your fast passes aren't working? That was us last time. That's again something nice with Universal's Express Pass. Is they have a system where I'm trying to remember how we did it. But it wasn't something that you had to scan electronically every time. I've had times where the system crashed on us at Disney, and it was very frustrating and annoying. The other parks, they're usually like hard ticket systems or something like this, where you tear it off as you go. And it's simpler, but it works. But thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Thank you, Craig, for being a part of it. Sure. I appreciate it.
It's fun.
Hope you all have a wonderful Tuesday evening and a great rest of the week. And got some stuff coming up for you Thursday, so be sure to tune in. And love your feedback too. Thanks so much. Have a great night, everybody.